All right, great. Awesome. Well, we'll welcome everybody to the final meeting of the San Mateo County Parks and Rec Commission in 2023. We missed the November meeting, so we have a pretty packed agenda for today. So as usual, we'll kick off the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, let's move into item 2, roll call. Hannah, can you please take roll?
Commissioner Kello.
Present.
Commissioner Bott.
Present.
Commissioner Mano.
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez-Mitten.
Present.
And Chair Laguna.
Present.
All right, all present.
Fantastic. All right, so we will, as we normally do, go next into public comment. So this is a time for folks in the public to provide any comments on any of the items that are not listed on the agenda. Hannah, do you want to give the instructions?
So actually we have one written comment that we'll start with and then I'll make the call.
Oh, great. Okay, let's do that.
And this this email was received after the packet was published, which is why it wasn't included in. And it's sent by Carlisle and Young, and it says, why did the Midcoast need to self-fund the Quarry Park pump track, yet the Flood Park $26 million 5-year CIP funding includes a pump track paid with county funds in Menlo Park? That park already had many features none of our parks have for local use, yet they get a remodel paid by the county. Why is so little money being given to be spent on facilities for the Midcoast? Why are we not getting a reimagined park or even have a community center, which was to be funded through the Midcoast Park Mitigation Trust Fund? Why is there no future county parks plan for any Midcoast Community Recreation Center? Where is the equity for coastsiders? Where has our 30 years of trust funds been spent? Please let our supervisor know why our area of the county is being overlooked since 2003 when the mitigation fees started to be collected. I look forward to seeing this letter posted in the correspondence section of your December meeting and hope to have answers discussed on a future agenda. Again, this was sent after the agenda packet was published. While
On the record, so when did the department receive it? What date?
it was received Wednesday at 1:14, Wednesday the 6th, so yesterday. And while I fundamentally believe that public comment is not a Q&A session, this individual has made this comment numerous times in the past, and so I do think it's important to take a moment to respond briefly. And I want to be clear that everything we do as a department is for everyone. Every facility we build, every park we manage is for everyone, no matter where you live, whether you live in the county, whether you live outside of the county and are visiting. A community center by nature serves a specific community. That for us to put county resources into a facility that serves just one subset of a community and not anyone and everyone goes against our mission. It goes against what we stand for. And so for that reason, along with the fact that nowhere else in the county do we build, manage, operate community centers, we have never put a community center project in the budget. I am not looking to dedicate our resources to a community center that serves, again, one very specific subset of a population instead of anyone and everyone. And as far as park facilities on the Midcoast, in about the last 15 years or so, we have completed the acquisition of Pillar Point Bluff through the Thompson property. We acquired Moss Beach Playground, replaced the entire playground, opened Devil Slide Trail, acquired the Wicklow property to make Quarry Park significantly bigger, built the pump track, opened up off-leash dog access, built the parallel trail, and are opening Tenitas Creek Beach. I think we've dedicated a lot. And the claim that the Flood Park pump track is being funded by county, it's actually being funded by a grant from Santa Clara County.
So I wanted just to make sure that there was accurate information out there in regard. But again, the most important thing that I want people to take away from my response is that everything we do is for everyone. And that's something that we fundamentally.
I think through the chair, I think we should probably put this on the agenda, just because of practice. We do not discuss without any level of detail, any communications, from the public, written or otherwise. And so, I would certainly like to make some comments about it, and I feel hogtied in terms of whether I could or not. And so I think I would like to suggest to the rest of my commission, we just agendize it and provide the same information that the parks director has provided and give the public and the commission to us.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that might be interesting too, because there's been a lot of talk around, and we'll obviously agendize it and kind of talk about it in more detail, but the fact of this mitigation fee, right, and its uses, what it's supposed to be used for, I think there's been a lot of discussion around that it's been misappropriated or there's something going on. So it'd be good to maybe get some clarity around what that mitigation fee is supposed to be used for, if it's being used for what it was originally supposed to be aligned for and all that stuff, so.
And to that, I'm happy to send an email to the commission. It's a public document. The San Mateo County Planning and Building Department at the last Board of Supervisors meeting gave an update on this fund.
Oh, perfect.
An accounting of the fund, in
Awesome.
fact.
I think that
And that was just a presentation was given to the board, so that would not be something that is secret, hidden.
Yeah.
Anything like that. So I'm happy to send that to the commission so you're able to view that as well.
that'd be awesome. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Hannah?
Let's just, through the chair again. Let's make this whole incident public, so that document should be provided to us at the same time, we are having it on the agenda.
Yeah.
So that there's no misconception that the director is seeking to influence, the commission by passing this document, separate from the public process.
Yeah.
So if any documentation that the commission needs to deliberate upon this, I think should be provided at the same time.
I think that's a phenomenal idea. We'll include it in the corresponding commission packet.
Great.
So spoken public comment will be accepted during the meeting in person or remotely through Zoom. Public comments in person will be taken first, followed by speakers on Zoom. You'll be called on by name to speak when it's your turn. If you wish to speak to the commission, please fill out a speaker slip located near the conference room door. If you have anything that you wish distributed to the commission and included in the official record, please hand it to myself, who will distribute the information to the commission members and staff. For speakers on Zoom, please use the raise hand function to indicate that you would like to speak for an item. When the chair calls on public comment, click on raise hand. Speakers will be notified shortly before they are called to speak. You'll be provided the ability to unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes. So at this time, any speakers for items not on the agenda can raise their hand. And we have currently 1 hand raised, Carlisle and Young. Carlisle, you should be able to unmute.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you also for having provided my letter, since I didn't see it in the agenda package. Usually, at least on the Board of Supervisors, there's a deadline or cutoff listed. So I thought I had at least the day ahead of time. And the reason I am speaking now is because at the Board of Supervisors meeting, they did show a very brief amount of money that was contributed to the Mid-Coast Parks Mitigation Fund. And that's been contributed year after year since 2003, when Rich Gordon was our supervisor. The initial reason for providing that was to have facilities for the coastside. And the fact that we don't have a city government to raise money for us or to allocate money for us, we leave it, we're at the mercy of the county. The thing that forgot his name, the director of county planning was very brief, and it showed like $100,000 had been taken out last year, and the year before, I believe it was 200 and some odd $1,000. And one year they took out at least 300, and that was to build the Quarry Park punk track. We don't really ever get a chance to vote on that at the Mid-Coast Community Council. They just take the money and don't tell us why it's being spent or when it's going to be spent. And my biggest question was, in the interest of equity, why do we have to fund it from our Mid-Coast Parks Mitigation Fund, which was originally put in so we could have community center and facilities? And yet we have the fewest facilities in all of San Mateo County. Yes, our parks are open to everyone, but we have very few picnic tables, very few playground areas, and they're really in shabby condition as well. So I want to see, when you guys make up your budget for next year, or even what you're going to spend it on, where you're going to spend it in Quarry Park or Fitzgerald. I don't consider the Devil's Slide Trail part of the Mid-Coast, because that is not where the mitigation fees come from, and they're not to be spent on Devil's Slide Trail. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing this on a future agenda, and I hope that maybe the county can provide you all the 2003 document, part of the Quimby Act, for how that money's to be spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlisle. And there are no other hands raised for public comment at this time.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody. All right, we'll move on to item 4, action to set the agenda. I'll make a motion to set the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call.
Commissioner Keller,
Yes.
Commissioner Block,
Yes.
Commissioner Manna,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Chair Lugana.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Great. Okay, so let's move into item 5, Parks Foundation Executive Director's Report. Michelle.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be back here. I have a couple things to hand out. The first thing, you can just take one, pass it around. I think I have exactly enough. Our year in review for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, it just hot off the press, and it highlights what we funded last fiscal year, but not everything. So we try and highlight different things. So we continue to fund Bicycle Sunday, and we gave money to Coyote Point Tree Health, but you won't see it in there because we didn't want to list every single thing. But yeah, just wanted to share so you get an idea of where our donors' dollars go for it. I also wanted to share, I don't know if the Parks Department has one of these in your office. You do? Okay, great. This is a book about the flora of San Bruno Mountain. And I'm showing it upside down. It's the first color book. And I just wanted to kind of highlight it because the foundation has been doing a lot of hikes at San Bruno Mountain with the authors of this book. And the foundation gave a little bit of funding towards its publication. So if you're a plant nerd, this is a really fun book to have. Very dense with material, but if you ever want to join us on one of our outings with Doug and David, it really adds a lot of color to this party, a lot of color. So even more color. So just wanted to highlight this. And then the third thing that I wanted to share is that the foundation is very excited to support the Memorial Park Nature Center. And so I'm sure you've heard everyone talk about it a lot, especially me. But 2024 is a big deal for the Parks Department because it turns 100 and is kicked off with Memorial Park. So we're very hopeful and excited to get moving on Nature Center and implement the interpretive plan that was created for it. So you'll probably hear us talk a little bit more about that, and then hopefully it will be showcased next summer. Hopefully. So that's my quick update, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions for Michelle?
Chair. So God willing, 2024, you're saying it's gonna be year 100. Is there gonna be like a big gala, a big, a hoorah for dignitaries and diplomats of San Mateo County and those are surroundings?
Well, Parks is definitely much better versed than me to talk about that, but the short answer is yes, definitely. And there's actually a number of events that are going to be happening because Wonderlick is turning 50, so there's going to be an event around that. And then in July, there'll be a picnic at Memorial Park, and so hopefully all of you will be able to attend that.
So, yeah, I think it's gonna be a Thursday.
I think it sounds right.
Okay.
I think it's like, yeah, I think it's right.
Yeah.
And Tunisia will turn one.
Yeah,
Or
so I
zero.
mean.
I guess technically, zero?
Yes, we will. Yeah, 1 month.
I don't know how that works, yeah. Tunisia will be born.
Yeah, so yeah, you have the nice spectrum, 1, 50, and 100 all happening in 2024, and a nice, like, kind of celebrating the whole, around all of San Mateo County. And then we'll probably do the kite festival at Coyote Point.
Summerfest.
Summerfest, that's right, so Summerfest.
Fest,
So
night.
a lot, I don't know about Coyote Night specifically, that's an REI dependent event. But expect the Summerfest to come back, so that's like 4 events next year. So I think working with Carla on something to appear in the San Mateo Daily Journal, which will have a nice spread highlighting all of those events and their dates.
And yeah, so, and there will be, as Michelle said, there will be an event and you all will certainly be invited to that when we start pushing the invitations and all the dates out.
Thanks.
And I do just want to say, Michelle could probably double or triple the size of this and still not cover everything the foundation does with the department. And so we really do appreciate everything that Michelle and her staff do for us and really for the parks and our visitors.
Well, this is fun to put together. So it does highlight a lot of the great things that the Parks Department is doing. And so we're just really happy to support. And yeah, it's ideally designed for maximum readability, lots of pictures. So, yeah.
Great. Any other comments from the commissioners or questions for Michelle?
This is a great document,
Oh,
Thank you,
okay.
Michelle.
Oh, well, thanks. Thank you.
informative.
Thanks, Michelle.
Michelle, just one
Yeah.
question, regarding the book,
Yes.
where can people, acquire it? And are
Yeah.
there more planned or, or was this just a happy circumstance that we had?
This is a labor of love of Doug Allshouse and David Nelson, who have been working on this book, I don't know for how long, over a decade or more. And so you can we bought a bunch at cost from Heyday Books in Berkeley, that's the publisher. So I know San Bruno Mountain Watch is probably selling some on their website, and then we have some at cost if people want them. And you can also buy it directly from the publisher. So there's a variety of ways to get your hands on it. And then we've been leading, and we're gonna do one in the springtime. We've been doing these wildflower walks on San Bruno Mountain. And so maybe luckily guests might get a book when they show up for those outings. So incentive or surprise.
And just a comment from me, first of all, thank you, it's beautiful, great work. The book sounds awesome. As I was leafing through here, I saw this thing about parks passes at the library. I was wondering, would there be funding to provide copies of the book for the libraries around the county? And then that would really increase its distribution.
Yeah, that's a really good, actually, that's a really great suggestion. So we can definitely look into it. And I just met with the San Mateo County Libraries this week, and they asked us to increase the amount of annual passes because apparently they're so popular that they are like, hey, who has an annual park pass in the library system? So that will grow.
Might this hit some of the sort of those interested high schoolers or something like that? Could it hit some of the high schools in San Mateo County who are interested in, like, let's say there's a field trip, and within that field trip, they can at least have an idea of what they're going to see?
I mean, we will partner with the Parks Department or the Friends groups on field trips already. So we don't get as many requests to San Bruno Mountain, but if we do, this is something we can definitely layer it into it. So I think the book is a wonderful resource, so we just want to promote it as much as possible and get it into the hands of people who want it. So yeah.
That's great. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Michelle, one more for you.
Okay, yeah.
See, everyone has something to say. No, actually, so I know that when we started off this year, and we're gonna be reworking the work plan as we get into this next year and we hire new officers and all that other fun stuff. But I know one of the things that we wanted to do was to continue to kind of support, promote, whatever it took to make sure that the Parks Foundation, kind of had what it needed. I guess my question for you, and maybe we can take it offline or whatever, is there anything the commission can do? I mean, like tabling, other events, random stuff, please ask.
Well, we would love to have a commission be a liaison at our board meeting, so. That would be wonderful. And I have, you know, I'm totally open to tabling at a park in your district. If you wanted to partner with the foundation and set up a table in one of the parks in your district, just let me know. I'd be more than happy. We were just out at Sawyer Camp Trail for Giving Tuesday. Everyone's so happy. The word hadn't quite gotten out at that point, because the parking wasn't too bad. But yeah, it was really fun and it'd be nice to do that in other parks too.
Cool. And Michelle, we'll talk about the liaison, because now that I'm gonna be stepping down at
That'd
the
be
end of this
great.
year,
That'd
yeah,
be great.
yeah, anyways, okay,
Thanks.
great. Let's open it up, as long as there's nothing else from the commissioners, maybe we open it up for public comment?
So, or really,
Oh.
you mean stepping down as chair, not
Yeah.
a commissioner?
Yes, sorry.
Just wanted to make sure we clarify that.
Stuck in
Let's
it.
try.
That easy.
Yeah. Sorry, got me nervous there.
Yeah, all right, let's open it up.
Alright, if you would like to speak on item 6, sorry, this is 5, please raise your hand. I'm seeing no hands raised for the foundation report.
All right, great. So let's move on to item 6, the Parks Department update. So we saw in the packet, there's a pretty full update. I don't know if there are any specific things that you wanted to highlight, or if we just go straight to any comments or questions the commissioners have.
You know, the most important thing, the two most important things really to highlight, one, we are very excited that Sawyer Camp Trail is reopened. This was
So cool.
really a big push to get it open when it was and to get it fixed the right way. We know that having it closed was really a struggle for people, not just those who use it to recreate and be healthy, but also those commuting. So really excited to have that back open. I was out there today, I was out there yesterday, both for events. I don't go hiking on the job, but
It is your
I was out there reminding myself like, that's right, this is my job. But I was out there yesterday, it's just beautiful and a lot of people, so really excited to have that trail open. And then we do continue to prepare for winter storms, and there's a brief statement on that in the department update, but we are working tirelessly to make sure we are as prepared as possible. And as we do in all circumstances, we will take whatever gets thrown our way and we will adapt and be flexible. And I think this is really a testament to the remarkable staff that are in this department, and especially the individuals who are in the field. And so we are, getting as ready as we can be, and then we will wait and see. But it is something that is a huge priority.
Great. All right, maybe open it up for the commissioners if you guys have any questions about the update or anything you want clarified.
Well, question on Sawyer Camp, how, so it's open, congratulations, I mean, it's a massive achievement. Overall, looking back on it, how did it go? I mean, were there new surprises at the end? Was it, within budget and all reasonable?
So it's a little bit, the budget and schedule question's a bit complicated in this because it was not a traditional county project, because we were doing a disaster response while also doing it in a way that's consistent with FEMA requirements.
Yep.
And the way the county covers this, it was not directly coming out of our funds, but instead being paid by county coffers so that they could seek that reimbursement from FEMA. So it's hard to say in that sense. How did it go? I think we had a lot of great learning lessons. And to have 2 considerable landslides on one trail, several culvert replacements, the need for a new culvert, new resurfacing. I mean, that was a big effort on relatively a short period of time. And so I think for us, the biggest takeaway was how we coordinate and we collaborate with internal partners, Department of Public Works being the primary. I think phenomenal takeaways, and I think we're all better off for it. And, God willing, we're not gonna have to do this again. But if we do, I think we'd be even more refined going into round 2.
Nice. Well, congrats again.
But yes, let's knock on wood.
Denise, construction.
Mm-hmm.
I am relaying a request from my community to get more frequent updates on
Okay.
what's going on there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that could be, you know, in the form of just an email from you that I send it on, or
Yeah.
if you want me to set up time to
So
deliver those.
what we could do is I will send you we have a Tunitas Creek Beach like email listserv. And so what we can do is I can work with Carla to do more frequent project updates. And then we can blast them out through that listserv.
Great.
And you know, we already have numerous individuals who have signed up for that because that's what we use throughout the community engagement process.
Mhm.
So so I can send that to you if we could push that throughout the South Coast and let people know that's it. That's the easiest way to do it. And then everyone's getting the same information. And we can also see how to upload those updates onto the webpage as well. But certainly the easiest way is to sign up for that list.
Great, I will do that.
Absolutely. And let me email you the link right now.
Okay, great, perfect, thank you.
Awesome. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah. I think we saw a just beyond nasty, and to put it more in clear words, a horrific winter that impacted and just put us back like several years behind. Not really that many years, but in hopes that we don't have this treacherous January and February that's going to, and I think what Parks Foundation and the entire county is more prepared should a winter storm hit us like what it did last year. I think if you don't have as bad of a winter like you did just not that long ago, I think you're gonna move smooth sailing in all of the projects that you have. Cause I think, you know, in hopes that, because I think you're on track, because a lot of money is being allocated and pumped into these, and construction companies are ready to, they're eager to dive in to a lot of these projects. So I think with Mother Nature hopefully being on, you know, we'll put a prayer, dear Parks Commission, please, you know, or Parks Department, you know, please be in our favor, because it's been, you know, it's finally that time. And you got the money, you've got the companies who are backing parks, so then it's probably, with that said, these companies are ready to dive in to start expanding and building and rebuilding, and do you have those construction companies?
Yeah, so I think you know, the two biggest projects we have going on right now, which are you know, I think, and Scott, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think they're probably the two biggest projects we've ever had as a department, at least, you know, since the early days of the department is Tunitas and Flood.
And Flood.
They're going on simultaneously. So Flood or Tunitas, they're already mobilized, they're on site, they've already cleared and grubbed, they are stabilizing the landslide locations. And they're doing everything they need to do to get that property in a condition where it can sit through winter and they can start that construction back up during the dry season. So that contractor, Gordon and Ball, is on site and has been actively working. And then Flood we're advertising the bid. So November 16th, I think it might have been. We advertised it, we had our pre-bid walkthrough, 9 firms showed up. I believe somewhere around the lines of 30 firms have pulled the designs to review them. And so we will be selecting a contractor mid-January, and we'll be going to the Board of Supervisors January 18th, and we'll go to the Board of Supervisors hopefully February 13th to award a contract. And the ultimate goal is to have phase 1 of Flood Park open, you know, probably by the end of October of 2024. So we have the contractor for Tunitas. We don't yet have the contractor for Flood, but we will be selecting that, you know, within the next month or so. And then for the rest of the projects, you know, we hire as necessary, whether it's through our on-call system, whether it's through the Public Works Jock program. We don't have any projects right now, other than that we're having to go out and find those contractors, but we've been very fortunate in the availability and the quality of contractors prepared to complete our projects.
Hey, related to that, and the one question I did have was also flood park. So I saw that, yay, the pump track open,
Mhm.
which is really cool. It said that it was well loved in the, how did the response to this pump track kind of match with the pump track at Quarry? Or have you guys taken any info on that? Or?
Yeah, great question. So we're installing trail counters so we can measure it from a data perspective. From a neighborhood response perspective, I think it was pretty similar. I will say there are numerous individuals who have expressed concern about the flood project throughout the years, who I've heard from who are saying, this is awesome, this is great. And when you go out there, you will see kids, you will see adults, you will see beginners, you will see more experienced riders, and they are riding in a very considerate and cohesive way. And that's what we expected to see based on what we saw at Quarry. We're seeing it in a flood. And the reality is that's what you see at all of these facilities that you build. And it's very common for people to be respectful to one another, be respectful to the neighbors. I will say, we opened it on October 21st. The fence contractor took the fence down on October 20th, and I got a call from staff at like 5 o'clock at night being like, hey, there's 7 people on it right now. Like, what do you want me to do? And I said, let them ride it. You know, I mean, that's why we built it. That's why it's there. Let them have fun. And have fun they did. You know, and I got a text from a friend of mine who's a big cyclist, and there was a woman who's part of the US women's national mountain bike team who was posting a picture and a video from her at the pump track, being like, you know, that was what she was doing that day. And so yeah, this has been really well received and people are enjoying it. And I got an email from a mom saying, hey, that's awesome. When's the next one coming and where's it gonna be? And I was like, you know, give me a month and then we can start talking about that. But
That's great.
so yeah.
Fantastic. All right, any more comments from the commissioners?
Well, thank you, thank you for including the district in the detailed report and some of the activities, you know, that's extremely helpful. I got a suggestion and a question. I hate acronyms. And you know, cause I'm always trying to figure out what the heck that means, you know, what the heck that means. And I presume the public, most members of the public would have a similar struggle, you know, so San Mateo RCD, you know, people that are in the know would figure it out right away. But the average person is just gonna try to say, okay, what the heck does RCD mean, you know? You know, Redwood City District, what? So just, you know, just say what it is, you know, I think that's, you know, that's helpful. And then a question, and you don't even need to answer it right now. You know, and I look at, you know, the Friendship Park data, attachment 1, you know, there was an increase from January, and then there's a, you know, a sudden decline, July, August, you know, and September, just, you know, just a decline. Flood Park, I can certainly understand there's a lot of activity that's going on there. And, you know, that would ultimately have an impact, but, you know, if anybody can think about the reason as to why, you know, there's a lot of use, and then the slight decline in July, August, September, the slight. Yeah, yes. You don't have to answer the question right now. There's something.
I'll have to look into that. Yeah.
Think about.
All right, if there's nothing else from the commissioners, maybe we'll open it up for public comments.
Yeah, you have comment for item 6 on the agenda, please raise your hand. We do currently have 2 hands raised. First will be Carlisle and Young. Carlisle, you should be able to unmute.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the storm preparation that you guys were talking about. And last year, there was a ton of flooding water flowing rapidly out of Quarry Park. And I don't know if it was at the Parks Commission Parks Department direction, or if it just was something that the Department of Public Works came and did, but they rerouted a lot of the water, and it, instead of flowing down Santa Maria in front of all the houses and the neighbors that were complaining, they channeled it off towards Columbus and then around the circle at Avenue Cabrillo and then down to Santiago, where I saw it entering a storm drain, and then it went across the road, and I thought, oh, wonder where that storm drain goes. Well, it just goes down to Murata Surf west. And I was right, east. And what had happened was it ended up flooding the brand new multimodal trail at the bottom where Highway 1 meets Murata Surf. So I'm hoping that this year, whether it was Department of Public Works or Parks Department, you'll do something about the floodwaters that are coming out of Quarry Park year after year before January. I mean, if you get it ready to be diverted ahead of time, maybe you won't have to send it down to Highway 1 where it floods the brand new $4 million trail. That's all I have to say, because I know I saw you on future agenda. You're planning to talk about the Quarry Park floodwaters. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlisle. Next we have Lynn Esselstein. Lynn, you should be able to unmute and start speaking.
Thank you. I want to begin with thanks. I'm Lynn Esselstein. I'm the director of Campus Capital Program at Curiosity, and express my thanks to the park staff and leadership for doing such an exceptional job of prepping the landslip on the point that sits in front of our brand new building. It looks really good, and also improving the security measures there. Although I will say, persistent pedestrians are persistent, and we saw somebody walking along the walkway today while we had a meeting in the building, but the whole thing looks fabulous. Secondly, I wanted to ask a question. I know that the report is sort of retroactive, but I was curious to know about an event that I heard of through Thrive that's happening next week that involves a hike around Coyote Point, followed by a breakfast and sort of an overview of the master plan process. Maybe I'm not sure, but I heard about it through a different organization. So twofold: one, if there's any more information that the Parks Commission or department could share, and secondly, if there is some sort of email listserv or thing that I need to know about in order to get notifications directly from the Parks Department about these kinds of events, then I can spread that throughout our organization so we can stay better informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And that's all for public comment.
Okay, so we'll move on from item 6 to item 7, the regular agenda. So we've got a couple items here, including elections, as well as a couple of other actions that we need to do. So I guess we'll first move over into 7.1, nomination and election of 2023-2024 commission officers. So I guess as we get into it, and I know this was something we kind of gone back and forth on a little bit earlier, but this is something that normally we do every year. I know we've had a couple of extraordinary years the last couple of years here, but the aim here is that we're going to be nominating as well as electing both a chair and a vice chair. You know, as the little script I have here says, chair and vice chair are chosen from among the commission members and serve until December 31st of the following year, or until successors are elected. I know there was some talk about potentially adding a secretary. I think for now we're just going to do the chair and the vice chair for this meeting. So let's maybe we just get into it. Well, actually, but before I do, any questions or comments from the commissioners before we get into the nominations?
Yes, I do. So first things first, I'm glad that we're finally moving in the right direction and we've got a lot on our plates in a very exciting and a very positive way. And I, as a former chair, would like to applaud Chair Laguna for a great last couple of 2 years.
Yes.
Throughout COVID and throughout the hiccups that we've had to endure, from not having quorum to not having chairs for nearly 6 months, whether that be from any capacity, and handling the online COVID years, I think you did an impeccable job, given the elements that we were faced with. So thank you for a great last 2 years.
Awesome, appreciate that, Commissioner Manna. Great, all right, so let's start off with the office of chair. Are there, and the way we're gonna do this is we're gonna do nominations, and then from there, we're going to go into an actual election for each one of these two, the chair and the vice chair. So just to start off, are there any nominations for chair? All right, I'll put one up. I nominate Commissioner Akello as the next chair.
Second,
Are there any other nominations?
I guess I would just point out that you don't need to accept a nomination. This isn't a vote yet, Commissioner Manna, so this is just.
just open the table for nominations.
Yes. All right, last call for nominations. All right. So given that there aren't any other further nominations, we'll hold the election for chair. Election is by majority vote of the commissioners present at today's meeting. Do I have a motion?
Like to make a motion to accept that the title of chair for the Parks Commission to be accepted.
Any discussion before we vote here?
Procedural question?
Yeah.
Does the candidate get to
Say whether they
say whether they
accept or not.
like the nomination or not?
I would have declined, which I did, so. Glad to accept the nomination.
Good to know.
Nice. Good that you asked. Yeah.
Great. Any other discussion before we go into the roll call? All right, Hannah.
Commissioner Manna,
Aye.
Commissioner Block,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez-Mitten,
Aye.
Chair Laguna,
Aye.
and Commissioner O'Connell.
Aye.
Right, so I guess, do we now switch like to, or do we wait till the end?
Wait till the end of the meeting. I think.
He serves until.
He serves
December
until the
31st.
5:59 p.m.
All right, that's fine. And then I'm out of here now. Awesome. Well, congratulations. We have ourselves a new chair. Awesome. Okay. So I guess from here, we'll proceed to the office of vice chair. So do we have any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Commissioner Rodriguez-Mitten.
All right, any other nominations? All right. Well, if there's no other nominations, we'll hold the election for the chair. Can someone put a motion?
Vice chair.
Or vice chair, sorry, vice chair.
I'd make the motion that we proceed with the nomination of Alma Rodriguez-Mitten as vice chair of the Parks Commission.
Any discussion or declines?
No, I accept the nomination. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, well, let's,
Is there a second?
oh, yeah.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's do a roll call then.
Commissioner Manna,
Yes.
Commissioner Block,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Laguna,
Yes.
and Commissioner Rodriguez-Mitten.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, fantastic. So now we have a new chair and a vice chair that will be starting their terms in January. So congratulations, everybody.
Just one quick thing for all of our current and upcoming chairs.
For meetings such as this, because now we're no longer doing these as teleconference meetings, you don't actually need to do a roll call vote.
Okay.
You can do a voice vote.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's great info. All right. And I guess, so we do also open up this one for public comment as well?
Yes.
Okay, then maybe let's open it up.
If you have any public comment for item 7.1, please raise your hand. Seeing no hands raised for the second.
Okay, great. So let's move on to the second item of our regular agenda, 7.2, establishment of the 2024 Parks and Rec Commission meeting schedule. So I believe the Parks Department has put together a proposal. We'll talk about it, but the thought is that we will vote on the calendar for next year following the discussion.
Yeah, and so, if you look at the resolution, and I don't have a page number for you, I apologize. It indicates, the proposal at least is the slight change in how we've done it for the last couple of years. So, I'll take a step back. Historically, the Parks Commission met every other month. And maybe a year or two ago, the commission opted to meet monthly. What we are proposing is a little bit different of a structure. And the reason for that is, and kind of I was joking about it before the meeting where, you know, I was out at Sawyer Camp Trail today, realizing like this is my job to be out here. That's kind of the perk of being on the Parks Commission is the parks or are the parks. And so what we're proposing is that the meeting schedule be structured in a way that you know, I believe there's maybe 6 or 8 meetings that would be here in this, and the remainder would be in the parks. And that would allow us to take a look at project sites. That would allow us to look at, you know, maybe areas where we're going to be doing projects, areas that we've improved, areas where we're doing new programming, and allow the commission to actively get your eyes on these locations. Now, because these would be commission meetings, they'd also be open to the public. So we would be able to have an agenda. Items would be discussed in the park. They would not be behind a desk here, so there would be no virtual component to it. But with that said, in the past, we've done one meeting in a park, and that was Chunitas Creek Beach. And I think by and large, everyone who was there would agree it was really successful and it was a really great opportunity. I think that's something we would like to see more of. And when we bring items to the commission in the future, you now have some context to that you wouldn't otherwise have. So that's what the proposal is as laid out. And certainly happy to answer any questions. At the end of the day, it's the commission's decision. And the commission certainly is able to do as you please. We thought that this was an appropriate proposal and are happy to answer any other questions you may have.
And I guess one thing that I think I brought up is as you guys were showing me this prior to the meeting, and I'm just for everyone, I'm sure you guys might have this question as well, is I know that in the past, right, we've had to have an actual location for each one of these, right? Obviously, we don't have actual locations for these. I'm assuming that that's fine and we need to post the location, I guess, with the regular packet, or how would that work?
Great
If we were to approve this.
Great question. Chair Laguna, so we could do it one of two ways. We can either schedule these closer to the date as special meetings and release the location at that time. Or Hannah, I think you have that written out. It has some recommendations as to where we could go in each month, and it would be based on what our project schedules are, what we're forecasting as where activities will be occurring. Hannah, if you could run the commission through that.
Yeah, so right now, the dates for the months with in park meetings that are proposed would be March, May, August, and October. So March is proposed for K Point. May would be Chunitas Creek Beach. August could be Flood Park, and October could be Quarry Park. I think the other thing to consider, that's based off of, what at this point in time, we anticipate is, the proper timing to be able to see projects nearing completion or other, more recent activities or initiatives that we've done in those parks. And have, good discussion about that, but there is opportunities to make modifications through discussion and regular meetings as well. If there is a change that needs to happen to that schedule or, more ideal timing for one of those.
But as long as we set it, like whenever the packet comes out, that would be enough forewarning, or would we have to do it like a certain time period in advance above and beyond that?
Special meeting is what, 48 hours? A special meeting, yeah, you could do that 2 days before. Another, like, the other example might be for the March meeting. There could be an action item on the agenda for the February meeting
To determine the.
to amend the resolution to set the location of the March meeting.
Got it. All right, the only other question I had was, obviously, if we're gonna be in a park, we're not gonna have a Zoom meeting, right? I would assume not, right? I mean, maybe with phone, but
That'd be impressive, but we're not that good. Our technology is not that good.
So that would obviously be a little bit of a hurdle, especially, if we're doing an in-person park meeting, maybe, along the bay when there's coast representatives, but okay, that's good. Commissioners, what questions you guys have, or?
I think Commissioner Manet is pretty happy.
I think you've been asking for this for quite a while.
We thought
to do this.
when we had the coast involved, and we had so many different entities and different groups that showed up to our meeting that day, we thought we were onto something. We had that meeting, okay, let's now, step on the gas instead of just kind of pause. And we'll predicate it on, okay, this meeting went amazing. And our superintendent could vouch for it. We had a lot of people, we had the opportunity to walk the entire beach, and the superintendent demonstrated that they increased more park rangers. They had to do a big cleanup. There were a lot of transients that were in the area that they had to get out. So we built on something. And the fact that obviously COVID happened and a lot of setbacks happened, where we can't be happier to know that, these outside meetings, these outdoor meetings will take place again. So that's a big step forthcoming.
And there was through the chair, there was also, this whole idea of fairness. If people have to travel from afar, to come to our meetings, it would be pretty good if we can get a meeting closer.
In their,
in
their district.
Yeah, in their district and closer to one, we thought that was, that was just fair. I do have a few comments, or rather some suggestions I would like to offer to the commission. Specifically on the specific dates. The first thing when I read through this, I said, okay, at least let's have a meeting in a park every quarter. So there are 4 meetings. So that was, that was fine by me. But then August is typically we decided that we'd take August off. Primarily because a lot of bodies, public bodies, I know my city, East Palo Alto City Council, suspends its meeting, all public meetings in August, and so that's the reason we chose August, to have our, the whole summer recess. And so I felt perhaps, we should still have a summer recess in August. But in July, since our meeting falls on July 4th, we can potentially meet in another week, on another Thursday, but still in July.
And Commissioner Gell, I think there was a reason for the July as opposed to August, so yeah.
So the Board of Supervisors has adjusted their schedule that July is now their summer recess. And so keeping in line with what the board is doing, and the fact, again, that it does fall on 4th of July, which as much as I enjoy seeing you all, I don't think you want to see me on 4th of July.
I see you on the golf course.
Yeah, but I'm fine with that. But I don't think you want to see me in this room at least. So we adjusted that August recess to be July again, to be consistent and then to recognize that holiday.
So through the chair, is there a legal obligation that we need to conform with the board?
I'll defer to counsel for any legal questions.
Is there a legal obligation that just because the board of supervisors decides, okay, they're gonna take their recess in July, they made that adjustment from August to July, should we do the same?
I don't know the.
Legally obligated to do the same.
I think that the commission has discretion to set its own schedule. Consistent with its bylaws. I think that's just, my understanding is that the department is just recommending kind of following the cadence of the board of supervisors, but.
And I think that's what we did last year, right, where we've, yeah.
I would also add that, and maybe this was subconsciously done, for staff's sake, but, staff will line their vacations up with, for example, if the board's not meeting in July, it's a really good time to take a family vacation because Hannah, Scott, other staff don't need to be at a board of supervisors meeting, don't need to get presentations ready, things like that. So there is a little bit of an internal incentive maybe for that, and maybe I did that subconsciously.
And then one other factor just to consider is just the school, summer break thing. So for those with kids, myself included, like July is definitely a travel month, whereas August we're back in town. So like I could make an August meeting, but I couldn't make a July meeting.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I like the idea of keeping the schedule as it's presented, for that reason. I think July tends to be a busier month than August. The only, I'm looking at the cadence of together, apart, together, apart. So I was thinking if you wanted to flip, but that would make it an in-park meeting in September and November, and I don't know if the weather in November. Yeah.
I had opted to not propose like February or November and start the alternation starting in March because the sunset time is like around 5 o'clock or 5:30 during those months, and the parks actually closed at 5 o'clock, so having a public meeting with the visitors still in the park when rangers are helping to close, and so that makes those 2 months more challenging, but so it's not a perfect alternation of every month, but it does optimize for the better weather, more sunlight, summer months and spring months.
Yeah, I think it's clever because you get to kind of keep consistency on the time, right? But you're accounting for the fact that, those particular months you have very short days, so it makes sense to kind of focus it more on the longer days for those park meetings. I guess one question I had for the schedule, so that leaves us how many, we get 8 meetings then in house here, and is that 8?
I think it's
I think it's
7.
seven.
That was 7.
Because one-
Right, because we missed July.
Yeah.
So is that enough? I know that historically it's been every other month, so you have experience, right, doing it with 6 in-person meetings and then 6 meetings were just off, or were they remote?
6 were just off.
They were just off.
Yeah,
So this way we get 7 plus an additional 4 site visits.
and yeah, exactly. So you have 7 plus an additional 4 site visits where business is still being discussed and business is still being had. And then I would also argue with a subcommittee structure where the subcommittees are meeting outside, that adds more business opportunities that weren't happening when we were just straight meeting every other month. Because there were very few I think there were fewer subcommittees when before this most recent work plan than there are now. And Commissioner Okello's been on the commission longer than I've been with the department, so I'll defer to him on if that's accurate. But yeah, when I joined the department, I recall there being fewer subcommittees than what there are now.
When I joined, the commission, there were no subcommittees.
I was right. All right, cool. That's right.
But just one more comment on this. I think it's a fantastic idea to have visits at the parks. And I think it's great for many reasons. I think that one reason for us as commissioners is we really get a hands-on, perspective of like the magnitude of what's going on. You have to see things firsthand. I firmly believe that. So I think it's really important. And I think maybe to your point, I think it really makes us more accessible to the public. I think it's probably.
Know who we are.
They know who we are. I think it's unlikely that very many people are gonna come here to this building and go through a metal detector to come sit with us. But they may join us at a park, and I think that would be wonderful to have more dialogue in that setting.
Great. Other.
August is still a difficult month. You know.
We couldn't distract.
August is still a difficult month for me.
But it's almost.
You know,
July.
I will go with the pleasure, the decision of the entire commission. But the idea is certainly very nice to extend our meetings into, the various neighborhoods.
Other comments or questions about the proposed agenda? Or meeting schedule? All right, maybe let's open it up for public comment before we go to a motion here.
If you have public comment for item 7.2, please raise your hand. Right now, we do have one hand raised, Carlisle and Young. Carlisle, you should be able to unmute.
Thanks, Hannah. I couldn't quite catch the last two meetings of the proposed offsite meetings. I have written down March and May, and then July, no meetings because of the Board of Supervisors. But what were the other 2 months? Would you mind repeating those? And maybe if you wanted to repeat your proposed locations for March, May, and the other 2 months. Thank you.
March, Coyote Point, May, Tenedas Creek Beach, August, Flood Park, and October, Quarry Park.
Great, thank you.
And then that's all for public comment.
Great. Okay, well, I guess maybe let's just get into it. Does someone wanna propose a motion to accept the recommendation here?
I will make a motion and I will propose it that we accept the discussion on hand and
I think this is a motion to adopt the resolution establishing the
I make a
meeting
motion to
schedule for the
adopt, I
2024
make a motion
calendar
to
year.
adopt the resolution.
I'll second that one. Okay, and since we don't have to do roll call, we can just do a show of hands. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain on this one.
All right,
Motion passes.
4-1, motion passes. Great, thank you, everybody. Okay, next up, we have 7.3. Recommendation to adopt a procedure and guidelines for the Fish and Game Fund grant applications. I know this has been a topic for quite a while, so hopefully you guys are planning to at least walk us through the recommendation on how to handle some of these fund grant applications moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So before you are proposed guidelines for funding recommendations, so as specified in the document, the Fish and Game Mitigation Fund is a special revenue fund that receives funding when an individual violates the Fish and Game codes, the specified Fish and Game code sections, while they're within the boundaries of San Mateo County. And so those funds have to be used specifically for the protection, conservation, propagation, and preservation of fish and wildlife under the direction of the board. And so the way the Parks Commission ordinance is written the Parks Commission is supposed to first make the recommendation, it goes to the Board of Supervisors, the Board of Supervisors makes the final determination. We have never had a set policy or guideline around how this is done. It's kind of always been done in a way where someone says, hey, can we apply for that? And typically then, you know, it goes through the process. There has been an increase in interest in these funds, and we think that given the limited amount of funds that are currently in the account, about $55,000, we think we need to both set guidelines and then also, probably more importantly, set a schedule. This commission has heard particularly from one individual on numerous occasions who's asked for funds. And we have always asked that we can hold off until the guidelines are adopted. So that's the backstory on this. The proposal is that the grant cycle is to run every other year. And that is because we as a county operate on a 2-year budget. So instead of opening this call for project and call for applications and going through this annually, we would do it in a way that we would essentially start it in year 2 of our 2-year budget. And then it would be allocated or be appropriated during the first year of our 2-year budget cycle. And so there's that schedule under section 2. So we would open calls in June, we would close calls in July. That would give us some time to review the applications, and then we present a recommendation to the commission. The commission would then be responsible for adopting a recommendation that goes to the board. The caveat to this is that I did add some language in here that essentially allows for an exemption for land managers or nonprofits nonprofits that support land managers. And the reason for that is there are times where a project may come up or where a local match may need to be required for a larger grant that we don't want to handcuff either ourselves, an organization like MidPenn, an organization like the San Mateo Resource Conservation District. And so by leaving that exemption in there, that would allow us, the department, to come to the commission and make a proposal. The commission at that point has every ability and right to say, we think this should wait for the call for project, or flat out reject it. So that is still very much within your purview to do. And then, you know, I think one of the most important aspects of these guidelines is really making sure that we understand, one, what the funds are going to be used for and the ultimate benefit of these funds, right? And so if it's a project, where's that project located? What are the species that are going to be benefiting from it? What is the monitoring that's going to be going on? If it's education, what is the actual type of education that it's going to be, whether it's interpretive signs, whether it's a video, whether it's handouts, and then who's actually going to benefit from it? And one of the things that we did add in here for your consideration is having very clear letters of support saying, I have reviewed the material and I absolutely am going to show this to my students. And that way we know we're not funding something that may or may not eventually be seen by someone. We know that there are firm commitments. And I think that that's really important for us to be responsible with these funds. And so that's really the bulk of the guidelines. And I guess the other one, because this has come up in the past, is I think we should be, my recommendation is that we fund final product. And so what I mean by that is funding draft work product is something that I think is problematic twofold. One, because once we start funding something, our name is attached to it. And if mid-project that person decides to change the messaging or change the values of the material, our name still gets attached to it. I think the best example I can provide, and I'm not saying this has happened, however, we believe in climate change at the San Mateo County Parks Department. And if we fund someone who produces a material that essentially says climate change is a hoax, our name is now attached to that. Not only does that not represent our values, I can't actually explain that to my board of supervisors. And so, you know, so I want to make sure that we have been able to view the final product before our name gets attached to it. And I think that would be consistent with the values of this organization.
Well, and I know we talked briefly about it, it'd be more of like a reimbursement kind of grant, but I think you were saying that a lot of other grants work that exact same way, so nobody kind of like
I'm sure there are some out there that do. Every grant we go after as a department is always based on a reimbursement basis. But again, in our case, it gives us a little bit more control over what our name is attached to. So those are certainly the guidelines. We did use, full disclosure, we did look at what other counties across the state are doing, and we kind of stole some best practices and we tailored it to what we wanted the program to be. And we put this together, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
All right, let's open it up for commissioners.
Through the chair, I've been at both ends. I've been part of a public agency that soliciting funds from philanthropic entities, both public and private. And I've also been at the end where this public agency was giving money to nonprofits, people that were needed to do some stuff. $55,000 as an entire pot, it's not a lot of money. It's not. And we asked ourselves the question, how many hoops are you gonna make people jump, to just get a portion of $55,000? At what point does it become, I won't even apply? It's no point. Okay? And so I think we sort of need to be cognizant of that. I'm very familiar with reimbursement, type of arrangement. You spend the money first and then we reimburse you later. But a lot of entities are not able to do that. They're not able to do that. The fact that they're applying is because they need the money to do whatever work, the grant requirements dictates. If they had the money from other sources, they probably wouldn't apply somewhere. So this is long overdue. I think this is very good, very, very significant. I think Mr. Kennedy is gonna be happy, that final health guidelines that can sort of help direct him and so on and so forth. And so I think that's all good. Question. Entities that can apply, who can? I don't think this is mentioned here. Can an individual apply? A nonprofit obviously can apply. Can a private company for business that does business apply? And so I think those are probably things that we need to add on to this so that people are clear. You see, you may have a private business that is doing the kind of work that we need to, get done, and they just need a little support. So, can they apply or can they not apply? Then on the exemptions, I'm not so comfortable with exemption. I think everybody needs to be treated equally, really. We can't say this door is closed, but there's another back door that we're gonna let people in for whatever reasons, justified or not, that there's this door for everybody else, but there's gonna be a special little door for somebody else to be able to get in and be considered outside of the two-year framework. And so I have a little bit of discomfort, with that. If you're gonna establish some rules, then the rules need to be applied to everyone equally. If we need to amend, instead of making grants available in a 2-year cycle, let's make it that these grants, since they're they're very specific. I mean, they're not general fund type grants. Let's make them available annually. So that way we don't have to create a whole separate door for land managers or whoever else. Everybody is on the same, whatever it is, and it may happen that in 1 year we don't have enough money. We say so. This year, we don't have money, so we're not giving out any money this year, because we don't have enough of it. Okay, so those are the two things and those are some of the things I would suggest, let's make it equal for everybody. So that we don't give the impression that, there's some people that are gonna be treated this way and some others are gonna be treated this way because of whoever they are. So I would like for the commission to, to sort of think about that. And the other thing is, I mean, if there's anything that we could do to sort of limit the onerousness of the requirement, because we're not giving them a lot of money. We're really not giving them a lot of money. And if you can just minimize the hoops that they have to, if they're a nonprofit, then we know they're a nonprofit, the federal requirements that they have to meet. We can go to a website and see their most recent fund, Form 990 that has been filed. We can look at the last several years, 4 or 5 years of Form 990 that they filed. We can get a pretty good sense of what their financial situation is. But let's just not make it so difficult for people to apply, Those are my comments.
I apologize. Commissioner, can you elaborate on those hoops that you're referring to? Just, I'm taking notes, so I want to make sure that I understand. I know you referenced the financial statements. Are there other hoops that you have concerns about?
The 2-year thing,
Mhm.
only 2 years,
Mhm.
you can apply. I think it's really those financial statements, really, and the 2-year thing. Just things that may prohibit somebody. And of course, the amount of money, we can establish certain minimum, we're gonna give 10,000, you're not gonna give a $500 grant.
Mhm.
We're gonna establish that.
I had a similar question regarding the funding and when the grant amounts are set. Is that the commission who says, puts together guidelines on, we're going to only in any year or any 2-year cycle award 75% of the funds so that the pot doesn't run dry? Or is our goal to give it all away in that 2-year cycle? And then is it up to us to say we will award, say, $5,000, $10,000 grants, or because as the commissioner said, I mean, I've been on both sides, right? And when you're writing the application, that's one of the questions you ask is how many grants are being given? What's the size of them? So I think it's something that we could set every year in commission, or to say that this is our goal for this grant cycle. It's helpful to be clear about that. I think this application is not onerous. It's 12 questions and most of them are contact information. So I would be I'm happy with the length of it. And I would we could suggest different wording around providing financial statements. It might be it might be we could word that a different way, because they may have other funds in-house, or typically if it's a single person or a small CBO, you self-fund it and then you're asking the grantees to reimburse that. I mean, that's
Yeah, and as far as how much is to be awarded, I defer to the commission on that. I mean, I think the question I would have is, do you wanna, I think in that sense, I wasn't interested in putting a cap on it, because we may one year get really good applications that bring us down to 0 in that account. But we may, as a commission, you may be okay with that because they're really good applications. And likewise, there could be a year where the applications aren't as strong. But we may know that in a future year, there's gonna be an increased interest, and you say, oh, we're only willing to allocate 50%, and I'm okay with that too. I mean, I think at the end of the day, because this is a special revenue fund and it's not, frankly, it's not, you know, the Parks Department has to take $50,000 from its budget every year and put it in. I think we have more flexibility on it and in that sense, I kind of like maintaining that ability and that flexibility to look at what comes in and say, these are really good applications, or, maybe we want to save some funds. Also, that kind of was one of the reasons why I made sure that, for example, I get a call from San Mateo RCD, or I get a call from Mid-Penn or some for Fish and Game, and they say, we're doing a project that we're gonna put a fish pen in, and we're gonna be able to collect data, but we need to do it right now, and it's mid-cycle. I would, that's the type of project that this account was made for. But to lose that opportunity because it's mid-cycle, that was one of the reasons why we had put that exemption in as well.
One other quick question. So does the source of the funding kind of fluctuate a lot, or does it stay kind of?
It's pretty fluid. Yeah, I mean, kind of just.
So some years, like a lot of folks.
Violators.
Yeah, violators, yeah.
The fund, I think, fluctuates with how many Fish and Game wardens are in the area.
Nice.
And ideally, in a perfect year, we would actually collect nothing, because that means that people, theoretically, that means people aren't doing it.
Yep.
But we know, for example, there are some funds in that account that came from people violating the code at Tunitas Creek Beach. And that's gonna stop, right? And so we should expect that we'll see a reduction from that.
Any other questions?
I had a question. I mean, this is all kind of a new concept to me, so it would help me to hear like an example of something that's gone right in the past, so like, has there been an example, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if you have any examples of a case where, here's this group or individual or organization that applied and here's the project that they did, and just a sense of what could be done would be helpful.
Yeah, I think probably the most recent award made was to the Fish Pen program, which operates out of Pillar Point Harbor, and they essentially get something like 10,000 farm raised smolt, and they release them, and then they go out. Then they essentially what's supposed to happen is they get big, they come back, they help boost the population, they help the fishing industry, they help the recreation industry. And they've been a recipient of this grant multiple times. And they've really been probably the primary recipient of the grant funds. So that's probably the best one I have for you. But I will say, there's been an interest internally from our interpretive program for funding to put educational information together for Memorial Park for our 100-year anniversary, being able to really explain the conservation principles around Pescadero Creek. This is a creek that people used to go down there and they'd fish, and they would, what you used to be able to do there is very different than what you can do now in the park, and for good reason. But is there an opportunity? That's been an idea expressed. I did talk earlier about that. The fish pen, right? That's actually something that's going on. The San Mateo Resource Conservation District and the Parks Department are partnering to try and track how many coho salmon, right? Yeah, how many coho are swimming upstream at Pescadero Creek to be able to track, and then they would put multiple counters throughout the creek, so you can see essentially when through gate 1, how many go, through gate 2, how many go, through gate 3, how many go. And so what's the difference? What's the population doing? So those are some of the ideas that are currently, no pun intended, floating out there as uses for this fund.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate that.
So through the chair, I didn't bring my copy of the code section 13-103. Where you have like 13 different areas, even more, that could be funded in this, and so, just putting it out there, would the commission be willing to consider the possibility of making a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that, for specific periods, we can say we're only gonna fund proposals in this 4 to 5 areas. So any of the others, if they come in, we just won't fund them. And we can have the flexibility to change that over time. So we can decide, for instance, that we're gonna focus on education and some other areas over a certain period of time. And then we can keep on shifting.
Now, would this be hand in hand with moving potentially this to a 1 year, like annual? And then annually, we would kind of internally align on which are the areas that we want to focus on? Or are you saying
I
we
think-
do like an ongoing?
No, annually would be too much, I think. You can say for the next 3, 4 years.
Okay.
We're gonna be funding in these areas. These 5 areas. You see, and then ever so frequently, we can decide, okay. You know, we're gonna shift and we're gonna fund it so that we make sure we cover all the 13 possible areas that these funds could be utilized for.
Well, I know something like that, like at my company, we do something similar, but it's every year. There
Yeah.
are a couple of things that we end up saying, okay, these are the types of things that we're gonna fund. It's kind of crowdsourced across kind of our employees, and then we do it. So I think there is some precedent to doing something like that. I just don't know how it would work with kind of the 2-year cycle, and would you were saying doing it like for multiple 2-year cycles, or? I also don't wanna like put
No,
ourselves
I'm
into.
suggesting we go to a 1 year.
Okay, 1 year.
That's one of the things that I want the
Got it,
commission
got
to
it.
discuss, instead of making it a 2 year, since it's a special revenue funds.
Mhm.
You know, is that the availability is gonna be the primary concern.
Yeah.
Rather than the budget cycle.
And I mean, I get the point about the budget cycle, but I also agree with you on the fact that we probably should try to disperse this stuff, on a more frequent basis than just the 2-year. I don't know, what do some of those commissioners think?
I wanted to actually maybe possibly address a question to Director Calderon. Maybe I'm late to the party, I'm late to the game, but what's the allocated funds that Parks receives out of in year after year after year?
From the Fish and Game Fund, unless we come to the commission and specifically ask for it, nothing. So it goes in that pot and we have the ability to apply for it. We would have the ability to bring an application.
That specific, just that small little specific.
Yeah, but it's,
Together,
we don't
but-
get a cut every year.
No, I think what is, through the chair, maybe be getting him wrong, so there's 55,000 in the pot on the most.
Right, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
figured 60 maybe was your, you know.
No, I think the figure you said was 55.
50,000 approximate.
Approximately, and that's not every year.
No,
Yeah.
So I apologize. So this is, it's a sinking fund essentially, right? So it's 55 right now. Let's say no one ever violates those codes. It sits at 55 and then it'll
Correct.
only go down. It's not like every year it gets replenished with another
Replenished, okay.
55.
All right.
Yeah.
gotcha.
Is there historic data on like how many applications are made to that fund, or?
There hasn't really been an application process, so it's really, so I guess, no, not really. I will tell you, this prior year is the first time we've received applications in the 5.5, 6 years I've been.
So we shouldn't expect. So we don't have an idea of, if we go through this process and we advertise it in the way that's described in the proposal, whether we'll get half a dozen or whether you're gonna be inundated with 60 applications that y'all have to go through.
Couldn't tell you, right? And that is one, and
Yeah.
that is a concern about going annually, is if we do end up getting, say, if we do end up getting 10, 15 applications, going through that, evaluating that, making the recommendation, but then also, the process of bringing it here, bringing it to the board, doing the process there, and then having to draft up the agreement, working with the applicant, working with council, dispersing the funds, monitoring that, at a certain point that does end up building up. We're not structured as a department to be a grantor. That's not how we're structured. We don't have the administrative staff for that.
My recommendation might be, because we don't have that data, that for this first round, that we keep it very flexible, we keep it very general, because if we start putting too many categories and specifics around it, then we don't know what the response will be. That for the first solicitation cycle, we put it out there as proposed every 2 years and see what we get, and then use that to inform the next 2-year, or if we think we can handle, if it's only 3 applications, maybe we can handle an annual cycle.
Through the chair, if I can shed a little light on this. When I joined the commission, the Parks and Recreation was coming out of non-existent. It had been eliminated.
I see what you're saying.
Parks and Recreation functions were being done by the Public Works Department. So the department was sort of just re-emerging and recreating itself, as a department. And this kind of policies were not there. And so the practice was, this organization that got the funds wrote a letter saying we need these funds again. And, we just went ahead and approved them because, they were the only people that were interested in the fund. And so our question was, is there any way we can advertise these funds, so that we have some other takers and so on and so forth. And I don't think we ever got to the point where the department felt it had the ability to be able to do that. The department was just reforming itself and, trying to get solid. But it seems as if now we are there. And that's part of the reason we really don't have the history. It's only one entity that has been benefiting from these funds over the almost the 12 years that I've been on the commission.
Any other thoughts, comments?
I mean, I like your comments about keeping it kind of flexible and, making sure that it's accessible, for people to apply. And it sounds like if we do end up kind of advertising or increasing awareness of the funds, we're in uncharted territory, right? I mean, we haven't done that before, so we don't really know what we're gonna end up with. So it's a little bit of an experiment, but I think that our job really is to make sure that those funds get used and they get used in the appropriate manner. So the sooner they get used, the better, but it's for a good thing. So I'm all for making sure people are aware and making sure it's accessible. And I guess my only thought is I'm still not sure I fully understand the 2-year idea behind, or the 1 year. I know that as a county department, we do 2-year budgeting, but this is an independent funding cycle, so.
Yeah, it just, to be honest, so the way, when we're moving money and we're allocating money, dispersing money, to be able to do it all at once, there's an efficiency to
I
it.
get you. Like when you guys are in kind of
but-
budget mode.
Right.
Do this at that same time.
And that's how
I
the
get you.
schedule is lined up. With that said, there's nothing that would prevent us from doing this annually. You can see on that schedule though, as currently laid out, right? We started in June and we ended in June, right? So to do that annually, we're kind of just doing this all the time.
I got you.
Right, so we'd start in June, end in June, start in June, end in June. And so to kind of spread that out made a little sense to us.
Craig, you had a comment?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to point out that, the commission doesn't have to act on this
Yeah, I
today.
know,
And
yeah.
if you were interested, you could perhaps appoint an ad hoc committee that 2 of you could work together and come back and make a recommendation to the rest of the commission. You could start with this.
I was just gonna cut to the chase and get to
Yeah.
a vote, but whatever. Yeah, no, we'll do, no, but
Well,
I think that might be.
It sounds as though
fair,
there's an
because we don't have, I don't feel like we have a ton of.
Yeah, it sounds as though there's a desire to perhaps make some revisions to this, and this is the commission's guidelines.
Yeah, and I think, Craig, that last point was actually something that I want to say, which is, so the department drafted this, but at the end of the day, it's the commission
Yeah.
guidelines, it's what's gonna
Right.
guide your thought process, your decision making. So we're here to help, but you know, you all are the ones who need to be comfortable with this.
Thank you for giving us a draft, through the chair, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was good. Any other discussion before we open it up for public comment? Okay.
So at this time, you can raise your hand if you have comment for 7.3. And right now we have one hand raised, Carlisle and Young. Carlisle, you should be able to unmute.
Thank you, Hannah. Excuse me. Thank you, Hannah. Nicholas, could you please clarify what you meant about these funds that they got from Tunitas Creek Beach will be going away? I'm assuming you're talking about fines from Fish and Games that are collected by people that catch poaching down on Tunitas Creek Beach. I heard people are going down there in Ubers to take crabs out of season, but I don't know if that's what you meant. And secondly, what did you mean go away? Do you mean that going once Tunitas Creek Beach opens to the public, that state Fish and Games isn't going to be patrolling that area, and the money, if we do issue citations, it goes to parks instead of to Fish and Game? Or am I just completely off base here of what I understood you to mean? If you could clarify, it'd be great.
I'm happy to. So you know, I think that might have been, my comments might have been taken a little too literal. So when that becomes a county property and we are doing we're conducting our patrols, eventually there will be a ranger residence on site, which will allow us to have 24/7 presence and nighttime presence. That will allow us to reduce the number of poachers that are occurring. We have already reduced the number of poachers that are occurring. I think my comment was more of a generalized statement that, you know, if we are able to stop people from poaching, there would be no citations written for poaching, and no citations mean no revenue. As far as, you know, like Fish and Game not enforcing on our property, that's I'm you know, they're gonna continue to do that. That's the law. They enforce the law. The money will continue to go into that fund. It will not somehow come into our budget. So yeah, I mean, I think probably taken a little more literal than it was intended, but certainly I hope the commission at least is able to draft that or understand that. Yeah.
Great. All right. So I think in reading the room, we will not be voting on this now. We'll probably, and I do like the suggestion of potentially adding it to one of the subcommittees, or being able to in a future meeting address it and address some of the amendments. So I think that's totally fair, because even I had a couple of questions as well. Nothing big, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page before we start kind of going into it. So thank you for that. That was actually a really good discussion, and I'm glad that we're finally starting to put a little bit of structure, or at least in the process of trying to put some structure around this, because yeah, it's always been a black box for me. So it's good that we're putting something around.
Chair Laguna, you and me both. So no, I'm not the black box part, but putting meat and potatoes to it. So yeah, I'm glad we're able to get to that. All right.
Sorry, through the chair. I mean, if there's interest, I think an ad hoc committee could be designated today, or it could be done in a future meeting.
Yeah. Both of which are.
But sorry, one kind of clarifying question is, if we don't change anything in this process, applications are still welcome to come in at this point?
So
Right now, it's
great question. Technically, there is no process right now. So, you know, you're kind of building the house from the ground up. So what we have been doing and what we would continue to do is anyone who expresses interest in these funds, we'd say they'd have to wait until this gets adopted.
Yep, I got you.
Yeah, and that's what we've been doing. We do have an individual who's been asking, and
Okay, you mentioned that.
yeah, and so.
and in the proposal, this thing would start June of 2024.
As currently drafted.
As currently drafted. All right. Yes.
One question and then comment. To be ready to launch the first week of June, how much advance notice would the department need in order to prepare you know, the actual and the user facing part of this.
Yeah, if, you know, I think if we could, if the, doing the calendar in my head right now. Call it May or so, if we could have, you know, I think what we would do is hopefully have a sense as the process goes along, right? So if the commission forms an ad hoc committee and that ad hoc committee is telling us, hey, that application is good, that application, go ahead and do it. We would be able to get a PDF, a fillable PDF version of that done fairly quickly, and it would just wait in the background. So we can do it as we move forward, you know, but if we had 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks to like be able to notify the newspaper, get the web page going, you know, I think that'd be appropriate. And Nathan, who does our website, is lightning fast.
Thank you.
No,
That-
great
That helps a
question.
lot. My comment to the chair is that I would be more than happy to serve as on the ad hoc committee to continue this discussion and help polish up the guidelines and put the program in place.
Fantastic. Anybody else have an interest in being part of this?
I do, I think so.
Sounds like we have our ad hoc committee. Fantastic.
So
Okay.
the ad hoc committee then could bring back a recommendation that would come back to the
Sure,
full
yeah.
commission, either perhaps at the February or April meeting.
Yes.
And
Great.
and a modified draft of this process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
Great. All right, that's good. Okay, so I guess we'll move on to 7.4, the Parks Commission meeting cancellation discussion. I know Commissioner Kello had requested this item on the agenda following the cancellation of last month's meeting. I don't know if you have specific questions or if you want to start building out, yeah. Maybe you can kick it off. I know you had a question about like what should constitute cancellation, but
Right.
yeah, go into it and we'll
So
chat.
first of all, I looked at our bylaws and it's, you know, there's no where there's any references to, you know, whether we can cancel a meeting or not. And so perhaps we do need to revisit our bylaws so that we can be very clear under what circumstances do we cancel a meeting. And then two, I felt, you know, the November meeting, cancellation was an absolute surprise for me. I do not check my email as frequently as I should, you know, so there's a lot of stuff that come in there and I see them late. And I did finally get your email, but it was too late, you know, the decision, you know, had been made to, you know, to sort of cancel the meeting. And that's what, you know, made me begin asking the question, under what conditions, you know, should the commission be able to cancel a meeting? Now, from an ideological perspective, I don't think a public meeting should ever be canceled. Unless in advance we know, you know, 3 of its members are sick and can't come to the meeting. So there's a lack of quorum, and so that automatically would cancel it. But I do think item number 3, public comment, precludes us from canceling a meeting. Scheduled meeting, we have a schedule of meetings that we do have, and each agenda has a spot for the public to make comment. Whether the public takes advantage of that item or not. And so our obligation, I think, is to the public. Not so much to even us or the staff. Our obligation is to the public. And so I don't think we can cancel a regularly scheduled meeting on the premise that we do not have things to discuss. Because the second, that particular premise was wrong. We have a whole list of items. Of future agenda items, about 11 of them. And so that premise in itself was wrong, and that's what I got from the email. That we, you know, I was being asked whether there was something urgent that we needed to discuss. And And that was gonna be used to determine whether we're gonna have a meeting or not. We had 11 items to potentially have discussed. So the meeting should not have been canceled. So I wanted us to have a discussion as to under what circumstances should a meeting be canceled? And should we have a specific subsection or article in our bylaw that says under these circumstances, we can cancel it?
I can start because I think, you know, I kicked off the process to figure out whether we did it. And honestly, I see this as a communication problem and not like a, you know, bylaw problem or whatever, right? I had no idea that you don't check your email, right? Like had I known that I needed to call you, basically what had happened was when we came to it, there were a lot of updates that we were thinking about doing. None of them were either ready or we were gonna be able to kind of discuss. So I had talked to Hannah about like, hey, listen, you know, I might be amenable to canceling it, but let's make sure that we notify all the other folks to make sure that they don't feel like they need to continue this, or if they have items that they do want to discuss, right? So I actually feel like this was more of a communication thing. I don't know what the right way to communicate with you is. Maybe what we need to do is call everyone's phone, but don't call mine because I'm not gonna answer my phone. Email's just fine for me, right? But I saw that as more of a communication issue because if we were able to get a hold of you, the meeting would not have been canceled, right?
Well, we need to populate the subcommittee through the chair.
Mhm.
We need to populate the subcommittee. That in itself was an item that would have justified having a meeting. Just populating our subcommittees, internally organizing.
Yeah.
You know, it was not like everything there was an update from staff.
But Commissioner Kello, I mean, let's just put it on the table, right? We actually discussed tabling the subcommittees till we got the new officers in place, right? We actually made that determination. I get your point now about not canceling the meeting and our kind of, you know, our obligation, right? To keep the public kind of informed as to what's going on. I just wish, you know, maybe I should have called you directly and we could have had that discussion prior.
No,
I had no
through the
idea.
chair, it's beyond updating the public as to what we're doing. This is a forum where the public can step forward and talk to us about anything they so wish to talk to us about. It's not us doing something to them.
Yep.
Or for them. They can come here and call in and say boom, boom, and complain or say something.
Mhm.
They can come here and talk about the stars if they wanted to. And it's the closing of that door for me that is problematic. We closed that door by canceling the meeting under the premise that there was no item on the agenda. There was not enough, there was nothing on the agenda that we could talk about. Is that premise that I have a difficulty with?
And that's fair. That's fair. On the bright side, now that you've been newly minted as the chair, we know at least for the next 12 months, there's not even gonna be an issue about that, right? So
No, it's not
I'm
about
excited
that.
about that.
No, it's not about that. Not
It
about
kinda
that.
is.
You know, it's really not about that. It's really not about that.
Okay.
You know, we really need to discuss as a commission. Can we cancel a meeting and under what circumstances? And is my point about the public comment section of the agenda, is that point irrelevant?
Through the chair.
Yeah.
I think that it is a good reminder of that we are here to serve the public, to serve the county. We did not completely close out that door in that they can send an email. That door is always open to them. And so I think that there's a balance there of what is a productive use of everyone's time versus, doing the public service.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall, there are often other public commission meetings and council meetings that I know of that are canceled from many reasons, or rescheduled, so, and I'd be happy to go check their bylaws and see how they address it. And maybe that is an amendment we make in the future, just as so that we all are clear on expectations for the commissioners.
Through the chair, I worked in public service for 27 years with the department that was serving several commissions. There was never any commission meeting that was canceled because we didn't have anything to talk.
You know,
Never, in my experience.
Just want to jump in just from, kind of city parks and rec commissions. I have, 8 years in the city of Belmont, and I think
San Mateo's the same way.
maybe once or twice we did it.
Yeah.
And it was for a reason like, maybe staff was literally buried with some sort of a project. And, as a commission, we didn't have, a particular item that we were, super focused on at that moment. So, communication went out, we all agreed, yeah, we can skip this one to give staff some time, but I really appreciate your point, Commissioner Okello, that, we are here for the public. And I think that that's, super critical that we know that they know that there's always a place to come and give a comment. Of course, comments can be provided electronically or by letter as well. We also know that there's a change to frequency of meetings that can happen, like it used to be every other month and now it's every month. So what about those months in the past when it was just every other month? Was the public missing it? But, the way I'm thinking through this one is kind of back to your point, Chair Laguna, which is that it really was just a communication issue because had we all been duly informed and you were not, you would have been able to bring up your point and say, hey, we've got all these subcommittees to focus on, and we would have had the meeting.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry that you were missed.
And there was that public item, for me, is more critical than anything else. We publish a schedule, we just adopted a schedule of the meetings that we're gonna have, says on this day, on this day, on this day, we're gonna have a regularly scheduled meeting. We don't willy-nilly just say, okay, because of whatever, we're gonna cancel the meeting.
Well, I will say, I am supportive of amending, the bylaws. Obviously you feel strongly about this. I'm supportive of amending the bylaws to limit the reasons that we can cancel this. So don't get me wrong here, right? I mean, I still believe it is, as Commissioner Block was saying, a communication issue, and had I reached out to you, this wouldn't have happened and we would have had a November meeting. But yeah, I'm in favor of an amendment. I don't know if you wanna propose one now, or if we wanna.
This is not an action item, this is just a discussion item for now.
Okay.
If we wanna bring it back, we'll bring it back at some point, but this is just a discussion item.
Okay.
Perfect.
Really quick, with the respect of the, within the, essence of time, I think moving forward in 2024 in the driveway, we can probably put forth ways to deal with or how to come about whether a cancellation is to occur, whether, and I'm all for not keeping the public out in the cold with, with a polar bear indirectly. I think it's the public's opportunity to learn what Parks deals with and what's tabled agenda and what is appealing to them, and what the business of nature within the Parks Department is, and how that's relevant to the general public, and even those who want to come in or those who listen to our meetings. So yeah, I agree, there should be discussions whether to prevent this from happening again, or as God forbid, something God forbid is happening, or someone is ill, or something that we don't have quorum. Then I understand about cancellation. You're out of the country, something at work came up, something at home came up, you can't make it. And those would be just certain sort of the elements of canceling a meeting. Otherwise, I'm all in favor of, meeting for the entire year, with the exception of a summer recess.
Yeah, and maybe just take a few more minutes on this. I think that your point about like this having kind of subcommittees that are working correctly, right, would be one way that we can actually start to get to where there will be something every time, right? Even if it is the Parks Department that, can't provide, the same updates, right? And I was thinking about Commissioner Plugger's statement about like, staff being super busy and whatever. I don't know if that's why some of those updates didn't happen, or if the timing was not right, or if we didn't have, it wasn't like the right time to be able to kind of provide some updates in November. But maybe you can kind of elaborate on.
Yeah, through the chair, I'm certainly happy to speak to that. I mean, certain updates need to happen at certain milestones. Otherwise, candidly, we're not giving you good information. We're not giving the public good information. So, that's one thing I'd say, right? To give you an update on Tunitas Creek Beach right now, or Flood Park, it would be incomplete and frankly unproductive. Just because of where we are in those projects. As far as, staff's availability, I will, just because of where we are in the year. I will remind everyone, last year or this year, 2023, we canceled a couple meetings at the beginning of the year because we were so inundated with the storms. Hannah and I were in the EOC, Scott was in the field, right? There was no way we would have been able to even hold a meeting. And I only say that because there's absolutely a solid chance that we find ourselves in that situation again. I'll remind everyone, we canceled meetings during the CZU fire, canceled meetings during the pandemic. So, and those cancellations were on staff. I put that out there, especially with some new commissioners, that there's with forecast, there's a likelihood that happens again. As for how we set the agenda, though, I would argue, looking at, and I recognize that this is really a commission conversation, not one for staff, but I'm happy to chime in the sense that, looking at item 9, there are a number of items here that the commission itself could say, you know what, I want to talk about 9.1 next meeting. I move that's on the next meeting. And that's something that hasn't happened, right? Is this list keeps getting longer, but there's never been a motion to say, I want to talk about that next meeting. And there are a number of things here, 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4, 9.7, that, I could go on, but those, you don't need the department for those, right? Those are things that the commission can do on its own. So really, the commission just needs to take the initiative to say, I want to talk about that next meeting, and boom.
Yeah. Well,
I do apologize, 6 o'clock is usually my time to leave, so it's not, I'm not leaving just because we're having this discussion. But I have another meeting that I gotta get on to on the phone,
Well,
but.
If I can quickly though, like Commissioner O'Kelly, if there's an item on number 9 that you want to discuss next meeting, like now's the time to say, I want to talk about that at the next meeting. And then that eliminates a lot of the confusion.
Well, that's how this item got on the agenda in the first place. That's how this item got on the agenda. Because I asked for it to be put there. And I had to push back saying that we have a lot of things to discuss, that we may not have a spot for it. But I insisted it be put on there. So I don't have any problem pushing for an item on the agenda. You say, I don't.
Yeah.
So, but I do
Well,
apologize. I do have a 6 o'clock.
So
commitment.
I get it. I did want to talk about maybe what are some of those kind of situations where it is legitimate to have a meeting be canceled versus not. But I don't know, maybe in your new role as chair, we can set that as a future agenda item, maybe?
Let's reopen the bylaws subcommittee. If it's something that we could incorporate in the bylaws, then we can do that. We've had that subcommittee a couple of times, so we made certain changes to the bylaws. So I think we could do that, but I do apologize. I always leave at this time at every commission meeting.
Well, either way, this was your line item, so if you feel comfortable that we've discussed it, then we're good to go. But thank you for bringing this thing up, and definitely appreciate that the candor with which you kind of came through this. Awesome. All right, well, I guess now that Commissioner Kell has left, we'll just table this, because obviously I don't wanna
Director,
have.
you may have to let me out.
I got it.
Okay. We'll table further discussion on this, because obviously he's the one that brought it up. Want to make sure that we have the opportunity to have him available as we do it. But I feel like we do have to open this up for public comment, so maybe we'll use this time to open it up.
So anyone with public comment for item 7.4, please raise your hand. We do have one hand currently raised, Carlisle and Young. Carlisle, you should be able to unmute your mic.
Thank you. I just want to support what the commissioner who just left, I think it was Okello, said, and I went to post that you guys were having your meeting on Nextdoor a month ago, because there were a lot of people asking here in the community what's happening with the bridge in Fitzgerald Marine Reserve. And I said, well, if you really have some beefs, you want to bring it up, you can go on to the monthly commissioners meeting. And of course, then I went to put the link in and I said, oh, meeting canceled, but it didn't say why. And so like he was saying, the public does have, the expectation that there's going to be a meeting, and that's when they would be there to air their questions or complaints or issues and get the information of what's going on with that bridge that's been out of commission since January. But anyway, there was one other meeting this year that I went to look on the agenda and it said special meeting. And I think that was just because the Parks Department didn't get the agenda posted in time, so they had to call it a special meeting. So maybe if you guys get started a little earlier, getting your agendas ready, and there's certain things every month that have to be discussed, you wouldn't have to be scrambling at the last minute. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Did you, we're not obligated to comment on it. I think we all.
No,
know kind
yeah,
of-
let's just move forward and just kind of go on a positive note.
Okay, any other
No other public comment.
Great. Okay, awesome. All right, well, subcommittee updates, item 8, I don't believe that there are any subcommittee updates. Obviously, as we head into the new year, as we're reforming the subcommittees, hopefully we can start getting some more traction on a couple of these things. But yeah, looking forward to seeing next year how we can reform these and start the year anew. If we're not talking about anything, we don't need to open up for public comment. Okay. So last thing before adjournment is item 9, items for a future agenda. I think to Director Calderon's earlier point, I do think that we need to kind of scrub or at least align some of these. I mean, I think we've had this on for maybe like the last 6 months. We've kind of picked 1 or 2 here or there. But I think as we go into this new year, and obviously a lot of it will be, Commissioner Okello as the new chair, helping to kind of scrub this list and prioritize and make sure we get things going, that we actually really do start to kind of go through a couple of these. There's some really good bits and pieces here that I know the commissioners as well as the Parks Department have wanted to kind of provide updates on in the past, but I do feel like we'll need to kind of scrub this list a little bit more, maybe start anew or whatever. But I'll leave that up to Commissioner Kell in his new role to start to work through this and make sure that we have kind of the right items up for agendas in January and beyond. I guess, well, maybe I'll just open it up right now for the commissioners to talk about any other new things, and we can put them on the list that we think that we need to talk about above and beyond the ones that we had discussed, like having the ad hoc subcommittee kind of follow up on some of the recommendation for the Fish and Game stuff, as well as a couple of others. But were there any that we hadn't discussed that you guys wanna add in?
Yeah, there was, I think I had requested an update on I'm not gonna remember what I'm calling it, the sustainability action plan. It's called something different.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but let's call it that for the time being.
I like that.
It hasn't been up, I think the last,
I think it's
was from 2015, so, yeah.
Cool, that's a good one. Okay. Any other things that you guys feel like we need to add onto the list?
And again, this is for the list for future. Future agenda items.
Yep.
I'm not sure if there was ever discussed if Parks is going to have a summit of some type in the summertime or late spring to maybe collaborate with other with other counties, or maybe through like something where we put our commission out there, whether we're gonna collab with other commissions, or Parks is gonna do like their, let's say, first annual summit and hold it somewhere. To kind of like it's a gala slash networking slash just kind of coming together and putting our names out there.
And I hate to shoot ideas early down. Could we maybe make that a 2025 one, just because we have Tunitas, Hutter,
Yeah.
100-year anniversary, summer.
Part of
plans.
it, maybe that's part of it.
Uh, certainly the commission's allowed to do, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, commission can do as commission pleases, yeah.
Cool. All right, any other stuff before we open it up for public comment? All right.
We just said.
So public comments open for item 9, future agendas. And we have one hand raised, Carlisle and Young.
Not surprised.
Carlisle, you should be able to unmute.
Thank you. Do not forget, since he left the meeting, that when they read my letter in the very beginning of the meeting, he said he would like to have it on an agenda since you guys couldn't talk about it when it wasn't agendized. So maybe you could do that for January, since that's something that's been lingering in the long past. Okay. About having the Quimby Act and the Mid-Coast development fees, trust funds being used by county parks and not necessarily for what they were designed for. And then you could pass out all the documentation before the meeting, because I could provide it, but I know Nicholas has it, or you could pull it off the county website, because it's been enacted since 2003, and we still don't have much in the way of parks facilities to show for it. So that would be great if you could add that in, since he left already. He's not going to be able to suggest it. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment.
Thank you. And that is all for public comment.
All right, fantastic. Well, that leaves one last one, but before we adjourn, I first of all want to thank the park staff. I want to thank the other commissioners and everyone in kind of making my extended time as chair an enjoyable experience. You know, I really learned a lot in the last couple of years. You know, we weathered some crazy times, but you know, I was honored to have served in this capacity. And definitely looking forward to and wanted to offer, you know, best of luck to Commissioner Akello in his new role. Yeah, I think it's this jacket. We can take it out. But all in all, really excited about this coming year. And yeah, we'll see y'all in January. Awesome. All right, thanks.
Adjourn. Thank you.